Welcome everyone to a new series of Games Lost to the Ages. I'm Blitz, your host from MaddnessScene. As always, it's great to have you with us, and I'm very excited to present to you Soldiers of Anarchy, which is one of my favorite PC games of all time. An old game, but hey, this is what this series is all about, nostalgia. I need to check something real quick. I'm a little paranoid. Yes, because the first time I tried recording this, it was on preview mode, so it actually
10
was
years.
not recording.
A lot of time.
No, don't
Time
start
to
the
think.
backstory yet.
About yourself, about others, about life. 10
All right.
years of living in a bunker. No, of surviving in a bunker.
Thank you for that. We'll get to that in just a second. Okay, anyway, this is a real-time tactics squad-based game. A lot of fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed playing this game. There's actually a couple different endings to it and a couple different paths you can go down. I'm gonna try to play through all of it if I can. It's one of those games where you can make as many save states as you want, and believe me, there's a lot of trial and error on these. Now, I'm going to be playing the highest detail level because, back when this game was made, this was like, oh my gosh, this uses your full computer. Now this is just like nothing. But, yeah. So, as I usually do when there's like backstory, this first video is going to be dedicated to the story, and then the gameplay will actually start in the next video. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shut up talking, and we're going to watch the story, and then next video, that's when we'll get into the action. Alright, here we go.
10 years. A lot of time. Time to think. About yourself, about others, about life. 10 years of living in a bunker. No, of surviving in a bunker. If you think the main problem in a situation like this is the stifling narrowness, the lack of fresh air, or the same rations again and again, you're wrong. What eats you up is the boredom. It doesn't take long before you've told and heard all the stories. You've fought and made up with everyone, and considered and given up the idea of committing suicide. Well, almost. This base and its bunker have existed since the early 70s. Back then, the Russians were building military bases all over their territories. This one also contained a research lab. Officially, the scientists carried out cancer research. Few knew the truth. These scientists were busy researching biological warfare. Then, to combat global terrorists in the year 2004, the Americans, Europeans, and Russians began exchanging their knowledge of biological and chemical weapons. This base was part of that program. So it happened that I, as a member of the German delegation under American command, arrived at the Russian base Kalinina on November 10th, 2004. A date I will never forget. A date nobody will ever forget. That is, as long as someone lives to remember. It was November 10th, 2004 when the spontaneous genome degeneration syndrome, or SGDS, appeared for the first time. Local news reported a strange illness in Tokyo, but no one recognized the severity of the problem. The first patient died about 2 weeks later, and because of the uncontrollable tissue growth, they didn't even look human anymore. The pictures on TV showed something that looked less like a man and more like a bloated piece of meat. The next cases appeared in Moscow, Berlin, London, Paris, and LA a month later. All of the infected died within a few days. Even the politicians refused to speak officially of an epidemic. The truth began to dawn when the mayor of Tokyo declared a state of emergency some weeks later, and the news finally confirmed what everyone had suspected, but didn't want to accept. The cause of the epidemic was not natural. It was an artificially created virus. It seemed that someone wanted to destroy humanity. Unfortunately, their chances looked good. In the meantime, over 100,000 cases of SGDS had been reported. The mortality rate was nearly 100%. The citizens of Tokyo were placed under quarantine. Nobody was allowed to enter or leave the city. It didn't take long before most other major cities did the same. The scientists tried in vain to fight the epidemic, but it was useless. There was simply not enough time before the situation got totally out of control. More than 100 civilians were shot down trying to escape a quarantine zone in Berlin. An uprising in Moscow led to harsh military measures, but nobody believed the military could hold the quarantine zones. The French government was the first to opt for radical measures. They dropped 2 tactical nuclear bombs on Paris, but it was a last-ditch effort, and the epidemic continued its rampage. Shortly thereafter, the world collapsed into anarchy. The last I heard, the U.S. government estimated more than 1 billion victims. Most of them were unconfined and highly infective. Humanity's last hour had arrived. When our first commands arrived in February 2005, the majority of the forces had already fled the virus. We figured the best thing to do was to find shelter in the bunker. When I say we, I mean Sergei, Vladimir, Sarana, Boris, David, and me. 5 Russians, an American, and a German. The great mixing bowl. I don't remember the exact reason that I decided to stay in the bunker. Maybe it was Professor Petrow, who pleaded that trying to rescue friends and families would certainly be in vain. Petrow was a scientist of rank and reputation. He ought to know. Before we entered the depths of the bunker, we blew up the only entrance to the valley where the base was located, practically cutting ourselves off from the outside world. We didn't have a clue how long it would be before we'd see daylight again. For a while, we maintained contact with the outside world and could follow how mankind fruitlessly searched for a vaccine and finally languished. One by one, the news stations disappeared, and finally, no one responded to our radio messages. That was 10 years ago. No one's gotten used to life in a bunker, because you don't live in a bunker. You exist, and you hate every damn day, every damned hour in this hole. But that'll all end very soon now, for better or worse. We've decided to leave the bunker in hopes that the epidemic has died off. We're ready to die breathing unprocessed air rather than staying holed up here. We're ready to live or die on the surface because if there's one thing 10 years in a hole has taught us, it's that life without freedom isn't life at all.
All right, well, there you have it. So, as you can see, sorry, the song. By the way, I've never figured out what band this is. If any of you watching this know like which band this is, if you could tell me, that'd be awesome. It sounds to me like it's one of those European punk or alternative rock type bands. That's what I'm guessing anyway. Anyway, as you can see, this is what I like to call a future past game. So when a game came out, it's set in the future, but so much time has passed since then that the future that it depicts is now in the past. Like, for example, this game's set in 2014. Yeah, it's been 4 years since that. Anyway, that's enough rambling. Next video, we're going to get to the gameplay. So if you watched all this, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video when we kick off the gameplay. Take care now.